And welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sport. And some very interesting news. World Rugby has officially prosecuted a online hate abuser from during the Rugby World Cup in 2023. The first of what is hopefully going to be many sort of steps and a bit of a landmark occasion in trying to curb the online abuse that players, officials, and anybody linked to the game currently experiences by sort of so-called fans and members on sort of social media. And obviously, we've seen the sort of the level of abuse really reach some new heights. And it's actually really impacting the game. Something like a Wayne Barnes probably stepping back from the game before we needed to, with this being a massive factor. You know, the abuse that he's had to go under, the abuse that his family, for example, and he's not alone, but he's been a very high-profile case in terms of just how bad online abuse has become. And World Rugby, before the World Cup, did come out and sort of say they're going on a very big campaign to try and curb the abuse and to try and hold people accountable from a legal point of view. So we're going to go through the press release and sort of talk about exactly why this is important and what we might see in the future. But before we do that, please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Right, so yeah, it says World Rugby welcomes the prosecution against a person who sent abusive messages on social media targeting a Rugby World Cup 2023 match official and members of his family. The television match official and his wife received threatening and abusive messages via Facebook during the showcase event in France last year. It says, but thanks to World Rugby's online abuse program supporting Emirates match officials and their families, the man was able to be identified and located in Australia, with the case referred to the Australian authorities to pursue legal action. Subsequently, the perpetrator has been convicted of one count of use carriage service to menace or harass via online communication. World Rugby has also confirmed that apparently they are taking steps to make sure that he is going to be permanently banned from buying tickets to any future World Rugby events. I always look at these things and think, you know, how do they police it really? Because, you know, you can buy tickets under different people's names, for example. Nobody actually checks to make sure that, you know, your names will correspond and stuff like that. You're not exactly scanning IDs, but maybe that becomes a thing in the future. But anyway, so they're looking to try and ban it from any future World Rugby renowned events. They also confirmed that there are further cases pending across 5 jurisdictions because of the big program that they sort of ruled out. So this is supposed to be the first of many. And we're seeing this more in football as well. People, you know, who have thrown sort of, for example, racial abuse have been charged with hate speech and stuff like that. And this needs to become a regular thing. You know, the abuse, you know, criticism is okay. You know, at the end of the day, you can't sit there and say that you can't ever criticize people and, you know, you can't, you know, ever say anything about anyone. But there's always that line, isn't there? And what we saw in the last year or two has definitely blasted through that line, and the online abuse is worse than ever. So speaking about this, a World Rugby chief executive, Alan Gilpin, said the following. He says that World Rugby welcomes this landmark outcome. The vile and toxic abuse is an all too common occurrence for many sportsmen and women and public figures. And we hope that this sends a very strong message to online trolls that such behavior is totally unacceptable and that the sport and the authorities are prepared to take action. It says prosecution comes as World Rugby confirms that the extended partnership with Signify Group, whose threat matrix service will now monitor for abuse content targeting all World Rugby appointed men's and women's match officials and their families over the next 3 years. Basically, the whole sort of program basically filters out abuse when it comes to you know, players, match officials, and the likes. It says that as the sport continues to unite to tackle online abuse, this service includes the men's and women's Guinness Six Nations July and November tests. Speaking on that, Alan Gilpin said that we are delighted to be extending our relationship with Signify Group to tackle online abuse in our sport. In addition to the support provided to our match officials, the partnership has enabled us to focus on the insights that help us better understand the triggers, tactics, and threats, and how best to mitigate them. So this is a good move, and hopefully this is a bit of a warning out to those who you know, do send abusive messages to players, match officials, coaches, and anybody really out there who's involved in the game. And again, you know, it's not to say that you can't criticize, but there's a tone to doing it, there's a way of doing it, and you know, you cannot lose that sense of respect whilst having a constructive conversation. So you know, people that will come out and sit there saying, "Oh, they're now, you know, monitoring us and you know, they're now censoring us." No, if you're going to abuse somebody, you're going to get the repercussions for abuse. You know, because at the end of the day, you know, emotional abuse is now being taken as seriously as physical abuse, which it should be, you know, and you know, threatening somebody's wife, for example, you know, to try and sit there and say that's any better than walking up to somebody in the street and just punching them, which you can be charged for assault is, is old-fashioned thinking. It's the same, if not worse, really, if you look at some of the messages and some of the abuse that has happened and some of the threats. So it's really good that they're taking a stand, and hopefully we start to sort of clean up the dregs, which are bringing the sport down, because, a lot of us can sit and have a very constructive conversation, and it's always the people that abuse and take it too far that just ruin it for everybody. So credit to World Rugby. I think it's taken them far too long to get involved in this, but they have now taken steps, and we'll have to wait and see where these will pay off. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve. I'll chat to you soon.